r/Nosleep. Posted by Reddit user GasStationJack. Happy Halloween from the gas station. It started with a single insect, with wings tucked beneath an olive green shell. It marched haplessly across the counter in front of me. I looked down from this book I'd been reading all afternoon, noticed the viridescent creature, the shape of an ant, the size of a tic-tac, and then looked back at my book. It took about 3 seconds before a sudden sense of panic roundhouse kicked me in the face. I screamed, slammed the book down on top of the insect, and shouted to my coworker, "Jerry, code green, get the kit!" Jerry, who had spent the last 2 hours sitting on a milk crate behind the counter, watching clips from RuPaul's Drag Race on his phone, suddenly sprang into action. "I'm on it," he yells, as he drove over the counter, taking the entire Powerball display with him, and crashing onto the other side. He hit the ground, bounced back up, and sprinted into the dry storage room, where I had painstakingly arranged a number of emergency kits for such an occasion as this. For those of you who are new to this blog, I should probably take a second and explain a few things. The gas station where Jerry and I work has been around for a long time, at least as long as the town it was built next to. It has a rich and complicated history that I won't bore you with. But suffice to say, weird things happen here. More specifically, bad things happen here. I hate using the word cursed, but there have been so many deaths and dismemberments on the company grounds that people around these parts refer to ambulances as gas station wagons, so you do the math. The previous owner didn't seem to care at all that much about the tragic accidents that kept occurring under their watch, and at times, I wondered if they were somehow in on it. They were secretly observing the employees via hidden cameras, like we were some kind of giant messed up game of The Sims. Of course, things changed after the owners' bodies were found, a few miles down the road under what I can best be described as mysterious circumstances. With them out of the picture, the burden of safety somehow fell upon my shoulders. I was determined to make sure nobody else ended up dead unless they wanted to. I spent several weeks and hundreds of overtime hours putting together the emergency response kits in the supplies closet, each clearly marked for the type of scenario it was meant to maintain. Now, I was ready for almost anything the universe could throw at me. There was a box for code blues, gasoline-powered backup generators, CV radio, portable stove, and blankets. I made a kit for code yellows, EpiPen, anti-venom, Celox powder, heavy-duty zip ties. I had a storage tub on the top shelf for any code pinks, bone saws, plastic drop cloths, contractor bags, disposable coveralls, and goggles. And of course, should all hope finally be lost, there was a shoebox in there for code reds. God help us if it ever comes down to a code red. Jerry ran out of the storage closet with a box labeled code green, for emergencies only, in his arms, nearly slamming into Mr. Abram along the way. "Oh, hey, what the hell?" Abram grunted. I met Jerry in the center of the room. "No time to explain," I yelled, tearing into the box before he'd even dropped to the floor. The first thing to come out was the bulk-sized roll of duct tape. I tossed it onto Jerry's arms and pointed at the front door. "Get the cracks, and the vents, the windowsills, the spider holes, anywhere that exposes us to the outside. This place needs to be airtight." "Aye, aye, Captain," he sang before rushing to work. Abram shuffled up next to me with a frown and a furrowed brow. "That kid almost made me spill my drink. What in the Sam hell's gotten into you two?" Mr. Abram was a regular at the gas station, a thick man with a smoker-stained yellow beard and aviator bifocals. He worked for the waste disposal company in town as a senior garbage truck operator. Once a week, he'd stop by the gas station on his way to the landfill to fuel up and grab a cup of coffee and a porno magazine. Time was precious, so I kept my answer brief. "Saw a mayfly." Abram dropped his coffee onto the floor and muttered quietly, "Mother of God." Maybe the little bastard hitched a ride on a customer's hair or clothes. Maybe an errant wind current separated it from the rest of the flock. Didn't really matter how it got here. All that mattered was the infestation had begun. This was a harbinger of things to come, and time was not on our side. With Jerry on crack duty, save your jokes, I raced to the back room and unlocked the circuit breaker box on the wall by the time clock. The sun hadn't set. We were still ahead of the game. I killed all the electricity to the gas station in one quick go. A static hiss from the overhead fluorescent died with a soft whimper. Soon the only light was what little spilled in from the evening sun, filtered through the countless trees in the forest surrounding us on all sides. The illuminant was bare, but enough for us to continue the tasks at hand. I returned to the code green box, while Abraham lamented loudly over the situation. I can't believe it's already been 5 years. Are you sure? Are you sure it was a mayfly that you saw, and not just a leaf hopper or something? I retrieved a can of bug spray and a lighter from the emergency box, tucked them into my hoodie pocket, then pulled out a case of medical-grade face masks. It wasn't a leafhopper, trust me. I equipped the mask and offered a case to Abram. He didn't hesitate to pull one out for himself. It was a good thing that he was a local. That meant I didn't have to waste any precious time explaining what was going on or why this was so urgent. He fumbled with the mask on his hands and worked his way through the denial stage of terror. Could it have been a thrip? Or maybe an aphid? I know what I saw. I'm pretty observant. I should have known the universe wouldn't let me get away with a statement like that. Oh, excuse me. The unexpected voice in my ear made me jump. I spun around to see a dark shape of a person standing only a few inches away and blurted out the question. Where did you come from? She answered, Well, I've been here the whole time. What's going on? Is there a power failure? Can I still check out? I bent down and grabbed one of the 2 emergency flashlights and flicked it on, casting the room in an eerie red glow. Now I could see exactly who or what I was talking to. She was a couple of inches shorter than me, about my age, with a short blonde haircut, and at least 10 piercings in her ear. She wore a black lace choker around her neck, with a pentagram pendant dangling in front, and her leather jacket zipped all the way up. She also had orange and white stripes on her cheeks, a coal-black nose, 2 furry ears on top of her head, and fishnet stockings. Whoever she was definitely not a local. I instinctively took a step back, gripped the flashlight tighter, in case I was about to need to defend myself. You know things are bad when your first assumption is that you're being invaded by fox people. And these days, I can't really take a chance. But the young woman wasn't attacking anyone. In fact, she looked as confused as I felt. Why do you look like that? I asked, before I had time to realize how rude I sounded. I'm on my way to a Halloween party. Why are you looking at me like that? Oh yeah, had already forgotten today was Halloween. I guess the holiday lost its appeal to me ever since the incident all those years ago. But again, that's a story for another time. Oh, there's an emergency, I said. She didn't seem impressed. What happened? Nothing yet, but something's about to happen. She crossed her arms and gave me a look that said, I'm not buying it. Well, in that case, I think I should be on my way. She dropped a handful of groceries she'd been carrying on the front counter and took a step for the door. Wait, I called out. She turned back to face me, but didn't stop. She just took a small step backwards, ever closer where Jerry was busily running lines of tape, sealing up the intended exit. Whatever's going on right now is not my kind of crazy. You guys have fun playing Space Doctor, but I'm gonna go. This next part went fast. Way too fast. Abram rushed past me, reached out and grabbed her by the arm. Hey, she protested. Let go of me, you creep. Well, listen here, young lady. You're not going anywhere. Now sit down and shut. In a flash, Jerry was at her side. I heard the thwack and saw Abram collapse on the floor before I even realized that Jerry had headbutted the old man. She said, "Let go." Abram held his bleeding nose in one hand and broken glasses in the other. He spat out angry curses from the ground as the young woman rubbed her arm and said, "Thank you. Did that hurt?" Jerry answered, "Yeah, probably." "Hey, old dude, did that hurt?"
"Fuck you,"
Abraham hissed.
"I was just trying to stop her from going outside."
She stepped around Jerry and looked down at the man and asked, "Why?" I answered for him, "It's not safe out there. Something's coming." Jerry turned to her and said, "If you want to go, we won't stop you. But if I were you, I'd listen to what Jack has to say. He's usually right about these kinds of things." "Thanks," I said. She cut her eyes between the three of us, settling on me to ask, "All right, doctor, what exactly is coming?" I took a deep breath and then explained. "In our town, once every 5 years, the bugs come. They swarm us by the millions, in clouds thick enough to block out the entire sky. They knock over trash cans, patio furniture, anything that isn't bolted to the ground. It got so bad last time that the cows literally choked to death trying to breathe in the middle of it. It only lasts for one night before they all die. Tomorrow, the streets and yards will be covered in green slime like they were hit by a sherbet snowstorm or something." She turned to Jerry and asked, "Is he being serious?" He answered, "Serious as a clown having a heart attack." Abram was now on his feet with a surgical mask over his face, red spot growing around the nose area, as he taped his glasses back into one piece. "I've seen 10 swarms since I was a boy. I swear to God it gets worse every year. I don't know if it's global warming or if it's all the chemicals they keep dumping in our creek, but these some bitches are getting stronger and meaner. Jack, you are absolutely certain it was a mayfly you saw." She laughed. Wait, what? You guys are getting in your panties over a bunch of mayflies?" "Oh, it's not really mayflies," I explained. "That's just what we call them." "It's October. We couldn't be any further from May. Why do you call them mayflies?" Well, she had a good point there. Why did we all agree to use such an obviously inaccurate nomenclature for this periodic shitstorm of biblical magnitude? Why didn't we call them something more appropriate, like nightmare bugs or hell swarmers or dick gnats? I tried to think back to the first swarm I could remember. It was 15 years earlier. I was a child, and some men in suits came and talked to our elementary school class the day after the swarm. They stuck around for the entire school day, but my memories from that far back are seldom precise and hardly reliable. The only detail that really stuck with me was when the men insisted we shouldn't talk to anyone about mayflies. We shouldn't mention them to anyone from out of town, not even family. They explained that it was extremely rude to discuss mayflies, and if we ever brought it up to an adult, they would be very mad at us. I might have dismissed those memories as having been mangled through the filters of childhood ignorance and time, but the men came back again 5 years later to talk to my high school class. This time they were less interested in intimidation tactics and took more interest in data mining. They handed out a survey form with questions like, "Did you see the swarm? Were you in the swarm? Were you bitten? Did the bite break skin? Did any of the mayfly remnants enter the orifice of your body? Do you know of any other resident who may have ingested mayfly remnants?" After collecting our answers, the men gave a short speech on mayfly safety. Never drive in a swarm. Always stay inside and turn off the lights. Do not touch or eat mayflies. Then they reminded us never to discuss mayflies with anyone, ever. As high schoolers, we had more important things to worry about than following up on mysterious bug experts, and at the time, 5 years felt like such a long way off before the next swarm. I honestly thought I'd move away before the next swarm hit, but here I was, 2 swarms later, nearly as unprepared as ever.